So I'm thrilled to be back here at the Livestream Lounge, and what's terrific about it is, being from Georgia, we are between the hedges, just like at Sanford Stadium down at UGA. And I am thrilled to welcome another Bulldog, Rosemary Ripley, a Yale alumna, and also a good friend from NGEN Capital. Welcome to the Livestream Lounge, Rosemary. We're thrilled to have you here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. And it's been a great day so far, Jeff. Really good job getting some great speakers together.
Well, and you, of course, have spoken for us at BevNet Live before, and we would love to have you work with Project NOSH. One thing that keeps coming up, and we were talking about it earlier, and where we're going to explore it a little bit right now, is how this sort of accelerated investment environment is reflecting down on the brands, and also how private equity is reacting to it. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, that's a great topic. I think that we're at a really interesting moment in this industry. I think that there's so much more money and capital available for companies than there ever has been, which is fantastic. But it's at the same time also that retail is in a state of change. Mm-hmm. The natural sector, which had been big supporters for a lot of these brands, is transforming.
Yeah, it's migrating to conventional as much as the brands themselves are.
Yeah, and so then as you envision having more and more of these brands in conventional grocery, I think a couple of things are happening. One is there are many more eyeballs, obviously, on the brands, which is a good thing. But you've got a lot of consumers who don't necessarily have a bent towards natural and organic products. In fact, if you look at the total food industry today, about 20% of all food products are being sold in the stores are organic. Now, they may be growing faster, and so from a retail standpoint, there's a lot of interest in bringing in the right organic and natural products. And
from an investor standpoint, there's a lot of interest in sort of betting on this growing portion.
Right, and that's actually part of the complication in my view. There's so much money out there backing all kinds of companies that I think it adds to the noise level and the confusion for the consumer. So we have, let's say, about 20% of consumers who are really gravitating towards organic, some higher percentage looking for better for you or specific ingredient makeup of the products that they buy. But there's a lot of confusion at the same time, because consumers don't know, I may know that I don't want to eat a lot of salt or a lot of sugar or gluten-free or whatever, but I don't necessarily know what's healthy for me overall, and there's a lot of mixed messages coming at the consumer.
Certainly.
So I think it's a complicated time, and so if you compare it to 5 years ago, what's clear is the industry's a lot bigger, and that's great. But since there are fewer offerings, in a way, the consumers who wanted specific better-for-you products had an easier time choosing. Now they're being fragmented across many more brands. And so the question I think we have to ask ourselves as investors is, what's the size of the prize overall, and being really careful.
So are you saying that brands can be too narrow in focus? So if they were at one point operating within organic, now they're organic and in a specific dietary category, or appealing to a too small a consumer group?
I'm saying the brands have to be really careful about what area they go after.
Okay.
Because the niche potential is in a counterintuitive way almost greater because there's so many choices for consumers. There's a lot more fragmentation.
And so
it's a different problem than you had 5 years ago as a small brand.
Which was just trying to get attention.
Which was just trying to get on the shelf and trying to get enough buyers. Now there's a potential to have many, many more buyers, but they've got many, many more choices.
Yeah.
So it's a fragmentation.
Do you look at different retailers than you had 5 years ago?
Well, we're definitely, looking online and seeing what kinds of products can be sold more online. There was an interesting point made earlier, which is that online's a great place for commodities.
Yep.
It's not necessarily, and it can be a great place for trial, but if depending on how different your product is, it may be a hard place to get trial.
Yeah, no, and it's a different set of metrics, right? It's sort of lifetime repeat users versus ACV is one of the metrics that I know that people look at when they're evaluating how well they're reaching people online as opposed to in store. Are there any others that you guys tend to look at?
Well, I think also looking at, in a sense, sales per point and how much that relates to repeat in a way, but each transaction is worth X, and you have enough of those transactions so that in the sort of like turns in a week in the store.
Sure. So let's talk about NGEN a little bit. Now, what are you guys up to?
We're looking at some things. So we're a little concerned as a whole about sort of the base CPG kind of food and beverage products. So we're looking at areas that are adjacent. Maybe some different categories that haven't received a lot of attention. So I think healthy snacking has gotten plenty of attention.
I've never met a healthy snack.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where snacking today is viewed as healthy, whereas it never used to be.
Yeah.
But there are lots of healthy snacks out there, of course. So we're looking at some adjacent categories. We're looking at some things in fresh that are tricky because of the fresh category, but that have the potential to become branded in a way that they never have been branded before. So things that might be viewed normally as commodities that as stores evolve and as the consumer evolves, we think there's the potential to brand.
Build a brand around a processing method.
Or around a category that really
processing.
has never been branded before, like some of things you might think of like fish or meat or those kinds of things. We're also looking at, we are definitely staying away from direct delivery to home. That's been a very crowded place. We're looking at some personal care areas, which we haven't been in before. We've invested in supplements, but we haven't really gone further afield, so we're looking at that.
So in CPG, one thing that's interesting to me, just thinking through your portfolio right now, is that you haven't been afraid to back a sort of single attribute focus for different products. If you look at something like Zevia, or you look at something like Bear, I mean, they're very tied to one specific proposition for the consumer. And I wonder, is that something that you aim for or try and guide these brands to?
Yeah, one of the conversations that happened upstairs earlier is all around platform. So Andy and I actually come out of a similar background. We were both at Kraft. At one point I was at The Parent, he was at Kraft. But I absolutely believe in platforms, and we definitely look for platforms. And the trouble with being too attribute focused, which we have invested in another company that's more attribute oriented, that's a narrow and tricky place to be as consumers change and as stores change. But on the platform side, we actually believe that Zevia is a platform and Bear is a platform for different reasons. So Zevia is the leading all-natural, zero-calorie sparkling beverage. And
you have to move that past the ingredient focus into that sort of brand halo.
Yeah, and the reason I say it's not just an ingredient is the brand positioning is all about natural and sugar-free and low-cal, zero cal. And that's a huge area. I mean, look at diet soda. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars and 98 or 9% household penetration. So to take that positioning, and we've recently extended into tonics and mixers and energy drinks. You know, it's a lifestyle. Frankly, I think what we're seeing is it's a lifestyle brand.
Yeah. Oh, that's very
and
interesting.
And the growth this year, we have hit a very interesting tipping point this year where our growth is up about 4 times versus a year ago.
That's
so
amazing.
It's phenomenal, and I think it does relate to consumers being very disillusioned
now for
with
the brands,
soft drinks.
For the brands, and we just have 1 minute, but
yes.
for the brands here, what's your thought on how a company can measure that we're about to tip or we need to platform?
Well, I think you got to stay close to your consumer.
So it's that research idea again?
I think it's very much oriented to know your consumer, know where they shop, know what they're doing, and if it is a lifestyle brand, understanding how they spend their free time, what their passions are, and being in those venues.
Well, I certainly have a passion for things mixed with tonic, so looking forward to seeing what Zevia's
their energy drinks are phenomenal.
Terrific. So, Rosemary, thank you so much for joining us here between the hedges.
It's great to see you, Jeff, and another great conference, really.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and we look forward to having you speak again.
Super, thanks.